What's up, guys, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Sinister Files. If you like what you see or hear, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to stay up to date on all my newest content. When I was a little kid, I remember having this terrifying experience while I was home alone watching TV in my living room. The day outside was noon, and the light was on in my room I was in. I was watching whatever was on TV, and I remember looking to the left for some reason to find a little girl standing there. It looked like the light around her looked like it was not touching her, as if she was in a dark place. Her skin looked dead pale, as if she had been dead for a long time, and her facial features are impossible to describe, but I'll do my best. Her face was covered by her black hair, and it made her look like the Grudge or the girl from The Ring, and the clothes she was wearing looked like nightwear, like she was wearing white underwear and a white t-shirt. All I could do was sit there and stare at her, terrified, until I looked away for a second, and then back to find her gone. I never saw her again after this, and I hope I never do again. It was 1986 in summertime, so I was out of school and doing typical summer activities. On that summer, we were able to visit my grandma who lived in Pittsburgh, California. At the time, she lived in an apartment complex that was somewhat old. When we got to go visit her, we were lucky enough to see her cousins, aunts, and uncles as they lived in the surrounding area and knew we were going to be visiting. That Saturday, me and my three cousins, Lalo, Carlos, and Raymond, were walking in the alleyway behind the complex, being typical 11-year-old boys, kicking rocks and just exploring. Like I said, just being boys. When we were roughly 500 yards away from my grandmother's apartment, we came to a section of the fence to where some boards were missing. We looked through it and noticed that there was a similar complex, but it looked as if it had been burnt down a long time ago. Nothing was ever rebuilt. Again, being boys, we just started to explore the area. It was at this time that we softly heard each and every one of our names being called out, but could not determine where it was coming from. The voice was not eerie or frightening, just bizarre. We had thought maybe one of our aunts or something had been messing with us, but we had walked quite a way and we didn't see her around, or anyone else for that matter. The voice stopped and we ignored it, as most young boys who have short attention spans. It was at this moment that my cousin Lalo froze in his steps and pointed and appeared to be a soft silhouette of a little girl, all in white, pushing a baby carriage. The little girl didn't seem scary or ghostly like. She had a look on her face that was calming. We knew that this was not right. I mean, why would a little girl be pushing a baby stroller in the middle of an old burnt down abandoned apartment complex? We still were a bit startled and continued to focus on her and what she was doing. She continued to push the stroller around the vacant lot with no cares of what was happening around her. At the time I said we need to go, as I was feeling uneasy and unsure of what I was witnessing. We continued to walk back towards the hole in the fence and make our way back to my grandma's house. We were frightened, but we did not run. We simply walked back through the fence and headed back to my grandma's. Once we crossed the fence back to my grandma's side, about 2 yards from the hole in the fence, we started to hear our names being called again. We knew where to look exactly. We peeked through another hole in the fence and noticed the little girl was still there. She looked at us and waved to come back. We did not know what to do, so we completely freaked out and started sprinting back to my grandma's house. Once we arrived at my grandma's, the mothers and my grandma were sitting at the kitchen table talking. We busted in with fright and confusion. We told our mothers what had just happened, and they needed to come with us to see for themselves. My aunt said, "I'm sure your mind was just playing tricks on you guys, and you guys are just seeing things and just scaring yourselves." Me and my cousin were sure of what we had seen and demanded with the seriousness in our voice that they needed to come and look. Each mother rolled their eyes and said, "Okay, we'll go with you and take a look." We started to walk down the street where the first incident took place, but I noticed that my grandma did not come along. We showed our mothers exactly where we heard our names being called and where we had seen the little girl. Our mothers again rolled their eyes and thought we were pulling a prank on them. Since we did not see anything, we started to walk back to my grandma's. Me and my cousins were begging our mothers that we weren't lying and to believe us. My mother had told me she believed me, but I know she was only just saying that to pacify me, to stop being so scared. It wasn't until I was about 15 years old that my mother had told me that same day that we had witnessed a ghost girl. My grandmother had waited for us boys to go to bed, And my grandmother had explained to her daughters that exactly a year ago to that day there was a terrible fire in that complex, and that there were a lot of injuries but only one death had occurred. My grandmother pulled a year-old newspaper article and showed it to our mothers. The article explained that there was a fire, and again, the only death occurred was a little girl who was trapped in her apartment. There was comments in the article about the little girl and how she would often have been seen in the courtyard playing with her dolls and pushing them around in a toy baby stroller. I've never posted in the subreddit before, but after working with authorities, I feel safe enough to share my story. For context, I'm a 20-year-old female. I started an OnlyFans account over the summer to support myself through school, and things were great until I posted my Amazon wish list. Amazon doesn't release your address to people who gift you items, but third-party sellers can. And that's where I went wrong. By the way, not trying to promote it here, this is a very frightening story and I feel like it should be shared. In late July, I got a puppy. One night around 2 a.m., I took him outside to go to the bathroom. While he was doing his business, I noticed a car parked outside my family's home. I saw a figure in the car and could tell that they were looking at me, but I couldn't make out their face because it was pitch black outside. Feeling a bit uneasy, I picked up my puppy to take him back inside, and when I started to move, the car parked in my driveway. I sprinted back inside and locked the door, but they never approached my house. The next morning, I went to check the mail. There was an envelope addressed to my OnlyFans name with $20 in it, but no note. I was currently still at my parents' home, who had no idea about my OnlyFans account, so I didn't mention it to them either. A week later, I moved back to my college town to get ready to start school. At this time, I had stopped posting for the time being until I could figure out how they got my address. I watched enough crime shows to know there's a possibility I could be in danger. I live in a duplex with a gated parking lot for reference. One morning, I was planning on vlogging my trip to Target because I was planning on starting a YouTube channel in the near future, since OnlyFans felt unsafe. When I got to my car, I had been ransacked and my vlogging camera was missing. I know it's my fault for leaving it in my car, but I was using it the night before, and since I live in a gated area, I didn't think it would be unsafe. It wasn't in plain sight either. I had hidden it in my glove box. I used the camera to film my content, and the SD card that was in there had all of my unreleased photos and videos. I know they stole it just for the SD card. Anyways, this is where the story gets weird. There are cameras outside in the parking lot, so we were able to watch the person break into my car and find the camera. They didn't touch any of the 7 other vehicles in the lot. They knew which car was mine, which suggests they had been watching me for a bit. After they got the camera, they walked around the duplex until stopping near my window. My bedroom faces an outside street and my blinds are broken, so it's very easy to see in. I have a curtain, but it doesn't cover the whole window. This person watched me sleep for an hour or so. I have no idea why they didn't try to break in, but thank God they didn't. This person then sold the camera to a pawn shop, and since I knew the serial number, the police were able to find it. However, my SD card was missing. I believe the police are still trying to track them down, but I have broken my lease and moved to a new place, so hopefully this will keep me safe. So this happened about 9 years ago when I was 17 years old. I was a wild girl and was often getting into trouble with my 2 friends, Amy and Jackie. This one particular night, I was dropping them off after staying out late doing our usual shenanigans. It was about 3 a.m. and they lived less than a mile away from my house in a safe neighborhood. First I dropped Jackie off and the next was Amy. They lived on the street over from each other, off of a normally busy 2-lane road with a median separating the traffic, but this night we were the only car on the road. This is until I saw headlights coming straight for us. I originally thought it was coming from the opposite side of traffic, but it wasn't. I started frantically honking my horn because they were picking up speed and getting closer. I got it so far right as I possibly could and put the brakes, bracing myself for a possible collision. Once the car was directly to the left of us, they abrasively skidded to a halt. I could see the figure of an older man between the ages of 50 and 60 with gray hair and glasses. I thought maybe he was having a medical emergency. I rolled down my window and started yelling, "Sir, are you alright? Do you need medical attention?" And this guy was staring straight ahead with his hands on 10 and 2, not moving a muscle. So I repeated, "Sir, are you okay? Can you hear me? Do you need me to call 911? This dude ever so slowly turned his head to face us, and I repeated the question for the 3rd time. Feeling uneasy now, but still concerned, He still hadn't uttered a word when he slowly gets out of his car and just stands there in the middle of the road, staring at Amy and I. Slowly, a smile starts blooming on his face, and I realize it's time to get the fuck out of here. I quickly put my car in gear, and when I do, this dude starts sprinting toward us. Now we're both screaming obscenities and what the fucks at each other. I look in my rearview mirror, and now this guy is standing in the middle of the road motionless. I decided to loop around to see if he's still there, and because I had to drop off Amy that same way. We loop around the same road in maybe 3 minutes, and he's nowhere to be found. Him and his car are gone, with the only proof of our encounter are the skid marks left behind. 9 years later, I still have no idea what happened. Did he need medical attention? Probably not, because he stood up and chased us. Why didn't he speak? Why was he driving in the wrong side of the road? And why was he moving so slowly? So thank you for watching another episode of the Sinister Files. Remember to like and subscribe, and to stay up to date on all my newest content, go ahead and turn on the notifications. Thank you for watching.